Hi there. I'm Sealy here, founder of New York Holistic Divorce, where we talk about all things related to relationships, to the end of marriage, to how to find yourself, particularly while you're losing your marriage or long-term relationship. Today, I want to talk about overcoming obstacles and pushing through when it feels like there's just no way I can go on. And when I talk about this, I love to share the story of the Cologne concert. This is an often told story, so I'm not the first person. There are other places that have more complete details about what actually happened. I'm just going to share with you what I remember about this concert. So this was a concert to be performed by jazz pianist Keith Jarrett. He was famous jazz pianist. He's still alive, although not performing anymore. But this was in the mid 1970s, and it was to be performed at the Cologne Opera House in Germany. And this was steeped in tradition, years and years old, and they had never had a jazz concert before. And so it was a little bit of a coup just to get this organized. And it was organized by a 17-year-old woman who had a little bit of experience organizing concerts. This wasn't her first one, but it was a big deal. And of course, because it was jazz and this was an opera house, it was to take place at 11:30 at night. So before the concert, the organizer and Keith Jarrett had agreed on a particular piano to be performed. This is a big hall and you need a specific type of instrument in order to capture the sound that he wanted to project to the audience, and also just to be strong enough to project to the audience. And he had been in Switzerland the night before and he had a long drive, and he gets to Cologne late in the day, and it's pouring rain, just, horrific out. And they get into the hall, maybe it was mid-afternoon, I don't know, but they get into the hall and they discover that there was a mix-up and they brought out the wrong piano. Instead of this big grand piano that would have, filled the space with this beautiful, spectacular sound, they brought out this baby grand piano that was used for rehearsals that was in a terrible state of repair. It was tinny on the upper registers, the lower registers weren't working for some reason, and the pedals were inconsistent. So Keith Jarrett says, forget it. There's no way I'm doing this. This is, travesty. He's exhausted. His back is in pain, and he's wearing a back brace because his back is in so much pain from all the performing, I presume. And it's just an absolute disaster. And somehow the concert organizer convinces him, just to perform in some capacity. And then they bring in all these tuners and they do the best they can to get this piano in reasonably good shape. And he still doesn't want to go on, but she convinces him to, and she, on top of it all, they take him out to dinner. They get to an Italian restaurant, and there's some screw up with the wait staff, and the food doesn't come, and and then, when it finally comes, they have 5 minutes to leave, so he barely eats anything. So here's Keith Jarrett, miserable. I'm sure he was not not that pleasant to people around him. I don't think I would be under those circumstances, but he's tired. He's in pain. He hasn't eaten anything. He's exhausted, and he's got to go to this packed crowd of performers, or a packed crowd of, an opera house, and somehow pull a performance that is beyond anything he's ever done before, because he can only use the middle registers of the piano. And again, I did play piano, but I don't know the piano that well, but I can understand how, if you're used to using the full keyboard and you can only use the middle registers, that would be limiting. So he gets there, 11:30 at night, sold out crowd. and 1,500 people, something like that. Beautiful old opera house. And Keith Jarrett begins playing. And thankfully, some of his organizers had thought to record this concert. I think actually they may have recorded it thinking, there's going to be a lawsuit involved and we want evidence of what a travesty this is, right? But sits down to play and he literally performs the concert of his life. It is, just one of the most spectacular performances that he's ever put on. They record it, they put the recording out, they release it as an album, and it becomes the best-selling piano album of all time. I don't know if it still is, but for a long time, it was on all sorts of bestseller lists. And it was just this unbelievable performance. And you can go on wherever you get music. If you buy CDs, if you go on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, whatever, Amazon Music, wherever it is, it's available. You can go and listen to it. It's a phenomenal performance. Even if you don't like jazz, you will love this album. And the takeaway is, it's a great metaphor. I mean, we've all been there. We've all been in that place where we had expectations about how things were going to turn out. And we get there and it's nothing like what we wanted. And sometimes it's, our worst nightmare, or at least we think it is. And we have a choice. We can go and disappear and say, forget it, I quit. Or we can say, how can I work with this situation? What can I do in this? What can I do with what has happened to me? We can shift the question from why is this happening to me to how is this happening for me? That's a big shift, and it takes a lot of practice. Obviously, we're not always going to do that every time, but when we do that, sometimes in the future, we look back and we say, oh my gosh, thank God that happened the way it did. Who knew that Keith Jarrett had this spectacular concert in him? This just absolute masterpiece. It was in him the whole time, but had all those circumstances not conspired against him for what he had thought he was going to do, he never could have created it. And our life is like that too. Things are going to feel like you're at the end of a dark alley and there's no way out. But the reality is, if we just, look inward, take a deep breath, put one foot in front of the other, when we look backwards on our life, we realize we had so much more in us and we can create so many beautiful things for ourselves if we just have faith, take a deep breath, work through it. When you get to that space, think of Keith Jarrett and the Cologne concert and having to be in front of 1,400 people playing a piano that seems like it's unplayable. So I hope that's helpful. I love that story. I love to share it. It helps me. It's helped me many times over to think back on it. So if you like this video, please comment below, like it, subscribe to my channel. Look for more videos every Tuesday and Friday. And thank you for being here with me. I can't wait to see you soon.